From the window to the wall, we getting lit up in it, big bouncing. We does it big up in it, big bouncing.
We've pretty much got all the parts in for the intake swap. We went and bought new intake gaskets, map sensor. I think we're gonna have everything here that we're gonna need, other than I was just testing out the fuel injector adapters that we've got. I ordered the wrong ones, so I think we had to get the ones for like this motor, like the 600Q9, to a LS2. I believe that's what adapter I needed for this. I just got the wrong ones. They fit these fuel injectors on one end, but then they were the wrong connector for the pigtail on the truck. So we've got the right ones on the way now. Hopefully they'll be here in a day or two and get this all put together then. But we're gonna get it all hooked up, hopefully mounted up, and then all we'll have to wait on is those adapters to come in, and hopefully we'll be able to fire it up. Alright, all we're doing here is replacing the knock sensors. They're known for going bad on these trucks because the moisture and water can get in them so easily. So we're just swapping them out here, and we're going to add some high temp silicone around the gaskets on the top to hopefully prevent water from getting inside. And I wish we had a better angle for you guys to watch this part, but we had the garage door closed trying to keep the bugs out, so. Alright, all we're doing here is adding in the fuel injectors and the little fuel injector retaining clips that hold them in to the fuel rails. On this new intake, you're going to need to remove this plug, and if your old intake has it, you'll want to go ahead and add that in there, or you can buy that little piece. I think you can get it for like $6 or $7. And here we're adding in the little foam pieces that keep like debris and everything getting into your valley pan, and then we're going to add the intake gaskets as well. Alright, and we've got the intake gaskets added now, and we're going to start putting in the bolts from the old intake, and later on we realized that we needed the new intake ones. You can use the old ones, but there's a little rubber sleeve on them, on the old ones, that you'll need to remove, and they'll work just fine. But we realized that like right before we added the intake onto the truck. Alright, so I'm back. It's the next morning. I've been looking all day and trying to fight with this stinking intake. I watched a couple videos, nothing's the exact same as this, so hopefully this will help somebody. We've got the fuel filter on. I found out that you just had to like cut the tab that was holding the end on there and just bend it out just a little bit to fit that fuel filter on, so you can have the return and the sending and return lines. We're just going to try to put it in there and just start putting stuff together. I bought some hose because I seen on one video a guy, I think it was on a 4.8, he just had to run a hose for one of the things. And we've got a couple of adapters coming in for like the new map sensor. We bought a new map sensor that's meant for the Tbss intake. So we've got an adapter coming for that to plug in the new fuel injector adapters, and I think we need to buy a Purge solenoid, and that should be pretty simple. It's got the mount and everything for it, so we're just gonna put it on there and start putting stuff together and hope for the best. we're still needing our throttle body gasket, but that'll be here in a day or two, so hopefully we can just get this in and everything, all the lines and everything hooked up that need to be hooked up, and then just go from there. And this is where we realized that we had to replace those bolts and put the ones without the rubber sleeves since we had them. So you can easily remove those rubber sleeves on these and use the same bolts that were with your intake, but we had the ones for the new intake, so we just slid them in instead. And here we just slid it in and just finger tightened one or two of those bolts just to hold it still. And right here we're just plugging in the knock sensor just to get that one done and out of the way. It's just one less plug for this whole thing, and then we just start to try to line our hoses up and figure out what goes where. This is the piece that holds the harness on the top of the intake, and it can't sit flush, so you're gonna have to cut like these tabs here. We're just gonna file them off and then it'll sit down flush. These are just getting in the way of the intake, so we're gonna cut those off. And to get that piece off, you just have to cut the electrical tape from the stock harness, and then you can pull it out. There's one clip on it, and then after you get that clip and you get everything cut off of it, you'll just want to re-tape it back onto the bracket. And we've got our new O-ring in, so we're just installing that. We're gonna get the throttle body all hooked up and everything right now. There's gonna be 4 Allen keys for the throttle body's adapter, and there's going to be 3 bolts for the throttle body to go into that adapter. And we're just using the stock throttle body for this truck. The throttle body I was wanting to get is a 6-pin, and it's super expensive compared to a stock one, so we're going to have that weird bottleneck kind of air going into the motor, but for now it'll be fine until we decide we're going to spin that on a throttle body. And you also have to buy a X-Link harness for the 6-pin, I believe, throttle bodies, so that's another $250 for that just little ball of wires pretty much. And then here we're just going through tightening it down. You want to go from the inside out, and there's a certain pattern you can go with, and then we're just making sure everything's snug. After that, making sure everything's tight so we don't have any leaks or anything like that. And right here we're going to start to put the coolant lines that run from the radiator through your throttle body. I think the newer ones don't even have that hose on the bottom, so you'll just have to put like a ribbed splice in for the 2 hoses to connect, and you'll just want to zip tie them up out of the way. And here we're fighting with the line that goes from the brake booster to the back of the intake. We ended up just taking a pair of vice grips and clamping that clamp down and then sliding it in there finally. And this is the purge valve solenoid you're going to want to get for this whole project. Luckily, one of our local O'Reillys had it, so this makes everything so much easier. And now that we've got parts that we need, everything goes together way easier as well. Alright, and for that PCV valve, it has to have a fresh air input, so we're going to use a tap and die set on the cold air intake and add a little bib on the edge of it to hook up a 3/8 line to. And this is the first time I've ever done it. Hopefully it did it right. Whenever we start it up, we'll know if we have any vacuum leaks. Alright, so what we did with this hose, this evap hose right here, is with this new Surge solenoid, this Purge solenoid. What we did is this was too small, but we just heated it up and slid it over this new one. We're going to put an O-ring on this just to be sure it stays on there. And then we're going to run a 3/8 hose off the other side of this solenoid, right here. And we're going to jump it up to here. Alright, here for the PCV valve on the top of the valve cover right there. You can see, like, this is different than all the ones I've seen videos of. So what we're gonna do, because this is supposed to clip back there as well, I believe. We're gonna clean this up. We're actually gonna take this whole hose off of here. And I believe this is meant for this Trailblazer SS one. So we're gonna pop this off and put this piece on because it's got that nice 90 and everything. So we're gonna take this hose back off. And then what we need to do is cut this hose to hook this PCV valve up because it's got different fittings on the other end. So back end here, this just pulls out. And this is how it hooks up on the stock valve cover of this truck. So we're gonna actually clean this up while we have it out. And the stock Tbss intake has this clip. So all we're gonna do is these are both 5/16 line. These are both 5/16 lines in here. So we're just gonna cut this hose right here and then just join them together in the same rubber grommet. So then we don't have to worry about putting any certain end on this.
This will probably be the easiest way to make it as clean as possible and have the nice fittings on each end. So if you can use all the stock TBS stuff, I would just use as much as you can to keep it stock.
Alright, now we need to mess with this one right here. So this is for your PCV, it's fresh air for it. On the old one, there used to be a vacuum line on the old one. It will be right here, but I broke it off. So that's the old vacuum line, and there it had a hose that ran with it. So we're gonna make a new hose, and that's why we put this tube right here. So you got to do that for the PCV valve, and we're gonna get this put on and make a new hose for that for the fresh air. Alright, well that's pretty much it. That's all. That's as far as we're gonna be able to go until we get the fuel injector adapters in. So I'll kind of show you really quick everything. Oh, and we also have to wait on our map sensor adapter because we're running the newer map sensor. It said not to do that, but hopefully whenever we get it tuned, everything will be fine. But that's what they said the hardest part was tuning it with the new style map sensor. But let me show you everything, and that'll be it. All right, so everything that you're gonna have to do is, if you don't have this this piece off your Trailblazer SS intake, you can just run a 3/8 tube from here to here on this new Purge valve solenoid. You're going to have to use the newer style or the Trailblazer SS fuel rails. And you'll have to get a C5 fuel filter. What else? And then on this, you can run a 3/8 hose from back here to the back of the block, or the back of the intake back there it's on the heads. Or you can just use this regular line and do what I did. And I just heated it up and slid it over this Purge valve solenoid. And then for your PCV valve, you need to, whenever you get it hooked up back here, you need to either get a whole new hose. If you got the 6.0 SS, you'll have to, you can probably buy one of these and put your new fitting back there. But all I did is just splice this stock Trailblazer SS PCV valve, and I just slid it in this rubber grommet here and threw a sleeve on that. And what else was something we had to do? Let's see. Oh, you had to put your new fitting on your intake for your PCV valve, the fresh air here. We just ran around 3/8 hose across. But yeah, it's if you're doing it for your first time, it's going to seem like a lot, because this was my first time doing this. I mean, I've taken my old intake off my white truck and not replaced it, but did the knock sensors. But if you're trying to swap it onto a Trailblazer SS thing, it's been a process of just watching video after video and reading different forums on what to do and what you need. But I think we're pretty much lined out as long as you get all the parts in, and I'm going to try to list everything you'll need in the description. So hopefully if you need something, hopefully it's just listed there. You can click on it or just search what you need and get it ordered, or run to O'Reilly's. I've been using O'Reilly's a lot for all of this. So, but if you're doing it, hopefully it works out way easier for you than it did for me. But I think we're on the home stretch now. We're just waiting on a couple things to come in and we'll get to fire it up.